Hello, hello, hello. Looks like we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, wherever you are in this green earth. Let us know if you can hear us in the chat. Just drop a message in the chat. Let us know where you're from. Let us know if you can hear us. Let us know which city, which town that you're tuning in from. Let me know that you can hear me okay. Let me know why you're here today. For those of you on YouTube, please hit that like button. If you're liking what you're seeing so far, hit the like button and help this content to get out to other like-minded audiences like your amazing selves. I've got a hey from SMC. Hey SMC, how you doing? I've got Marcus from City of Mexico. Hello, Marcus. We got Momo from London. Hey, Momo. We have Marissa from Portugal. Hey. And yeah, it's great to hear that you guys can hear me. It's good to see that everything is fine, and it's great to see people have tuned in from all around the world. Now, I really appreciate this next hour that you're going to spend with us. So without further ado, let's get straight into today's agenda. Thank you very much once again for joining us. Once again, just before I get started, my name is Adrian Daniels, and I am the Head of Growth and Partnerships over at UX Academy. Let's look at what we're going to cover today, all right? And just before we get into the agenda, you are in the right place if you want to further your UX skills. So you're definitely in the right place, that's for sure. Okay, great. I can still see a lot of amazing people from all around the world. It's fantastic. I can see Rory from Hertfordshire, Jan from UK. Will this video be uploaded on YouTube? Yes. So just to let you guys know, this video will be available on replay. If you can't stay for the whole entire session, I would recommend that you can, but if you can't, you can watch it back later on. But yes, it will. All right, so you are in the right place if you want to further your UX skills. All right, and yeah, let's look at what we got in store for today. So who is UX? So I'm going to talk a little bit about who UX Academy is and why you could consider joining if you want. Just let me know in the chat if I just spend just a few minutes just to let you know a little bit about UX Academy, if that's okay. All right, before we get into the heart of what we're gonna give you, which is some great value in UX UI. And we're also going to talk about what UX design is, how UX designers work, your journey to UX Academy. We'll look at some roles and disciplines in UX design, and then we're going to look at another student presentation from one of our cohorts that joined the course recently over the past previous months, who got hired as well. And we're going to dive into a Q&A with one of our instructors, and you can ask us anything. Make sure you stick around to the end, because we do have a free giveaway and some special bonuses. So that's only if you stick around to the end, you will be able to see that. If you don't, then unfortunately you may miss out on some great stuff to come. So let's go straight into it. I could see some more people from around the world. We got Yogesh from India. That's amazing. And I've got Ashla from USA. Fantastic. And Soph from UK. That's amazing. All right. Okay, so let's get straight into it. All right, so who is UX Academy? So UX Academy, so we are just crazy about design. So we are enthusiasts, entrepreneurs, designers, product developers, product designers, innovationalists, and we are just a community of entrepreneurs, enthusiasts, designers who really want to deliver the best practice in UX, UI, and product design and development. UX Academy was established on the back of Mobile UX London. For those of you who have heard of UX Festival or attended UX Festival recently, Mobile UX London, the same guys that brought you that event. Now, Mobile UX London has been around for many years, and as a result of the great events they've been running, there was a demand for training within the community, upskilling, if you will, in the area of UX UI design, and hence UX Academy was born over 4 years ago and has been successful ever since. Over 250 students, 10 teachers, and the rest is history. All right, so for those of you who are considering moving into UX design or taking a next step, why would you look at UX Academy? So all our training is 100% live online. We are looking at some in-person courses, but we are taking precautions. So all our courses 100% are always going to be online. You do graduate with a course certificate, so signed by the instructors and the founders. You also get mentorship, which is something we introduced when our courses moved online. Experts UX design teachers, which is one of them ones that you're going to meet later on in today's session. And our payment methods are very flexible. You can spread the cost according to your economical situation, whether you want to pay monthly or you want to pay upfront, or whether you want to pay in 2 installments. And also, we deliver real company projects to give you that edge in interviews and getting your first UX job. All right, so we do have students from top companies. So I'm sure you can recognize some of the amazing companies on the screen. We have Amazon, we have Vodafone, we have Conde Nast, we have User Testing, and so many other companies there. So our students either come from these amazing companies or they go on to work for some of these companies. One of the students we had from Deloitte was Emma Goudard, a senior UX designer. You can see a testimonial on the screen, and it's just really incredible. Yeah. It's just some of the people that have come on board and really appreciated what we've done. Here's some of the tools we use. I won't spend too much time because I know you guys want to learn what UX design is all about. So we have Slack, Google Drive, Figma, Zoom, Miro, and Vision. Tools we use, Slack, of course. Here's an example of what Slack looks like on the screen. This is where you're gonna, stay in touch with all the comms and the communications regarding your lessons, the instructors, your teams, your classmates, your colleagues, etc. Figma here, this is the tool that you'd be using for UI prototyping, for interaction design. Look how gorgeous that that plant looks. Google Drive, I'm sure you guys are familiar with Dropbox and Google Drive. Cloud storage, we use our cloud storage for sharing files and learning folders. Zoom, here's an example of one of our past lessons that we had with our students. Of course, you guys all know what Zoom is after that horrible pandemic last year. And we have Miro on the board, which is for whiteboarding. So you'll get a bit familiar with what Miro is if you do come on the course. So you can go on Miro.com, and if you want to be a UX designer, you can play around with Miro, and you can, there are some great tutorials on YouTube as well. And this is, one of the industry standard tools for whiteboarding if you want to be a UX designer. So that's a bit of value for you there. And InVision is a backup tool. We don't use it as much, but it is there and it's great for designing digital products. So who can get involved in becoming a UX designer? Or if you want to enroll in our course, you don't have to, but if you want to, who can get involved? Almost anybody, from product designers, visual designers, freelance designers, software developers, psychologists, customer experience people, UX enthusiasts. And if you're completely new, we've had some of the most remote industries join UX design. If you're anybody, you can do it. Trust me. As long as you have the will and determination, you're ready to learn. Okay, here's one of the testimonials from one of our students, Patrick Groman. He graduated in March 2021. That's his LinkedIn post. I'm sure you guys can see it. And he was very excited to post his course certificate. See, that's an example of the certificate that you would get if you come on the course. And yeah, he was very happy. You can see his testimony on the screen. I won't spend too much of your time trying to read that testimony out, but you can head over to our website and click on testimonials, and you will be able to see the whole lot there. Okay, so our course trainers, we have Dr. Yotta and we have Stratus. They're both amazing teachers with at least 7+ years experience in the industry. Stratus is also a hiring manager. So if you're looking to get yourself into your first UX role, Stratus knows exactly what it takes with 10 to 15 years experience in UX design, working as a UX design lead. Dr. Yotta is amazing. She teaches some of the top universities in the UK and really has a strong background in customer experience and user experience. Okay, so just before I hand over to Nora, who's going to tell you guys all about UX design, we do have a special offer for you guys. So if you want to sign up to our course, which you'll learn a little bit more about later towards the end of this session, just head over to myuxacademy.com/enroll. Alternatively, if you're watching on YouTube, just hit the button on the live chat link, and that will take you straight there. You can also put in the code workshop12 to bag yourself a nice 12% discount. All right. Just £199 deposit, and that will take money off the total course price, and the rest of the discount will be applied when you pay for the rest of the course. Just before I hand over to Nora, I can see some questions have been posted. Now we're going to take some of these questions towards the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to submit your questions in the chat, and we will be able to get back to those questions for the Q&A session. All right. So we've taken acknowledge of your questions, and we will get to them very shortly. Thank you for your patience. I hope I haven't taken too much of your time. I'm going to hand over to Nora, where she can show you what UX design is all about. Thank you guys for trusting me. How are you doing, Nora?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Not too bad. Very, very hot here in the UK. But yeah, we're making it through. I just got a fan in my room, so just trying to keep cool. Just trying to stay cool here. Trying to stay cool.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for the introduction. So now I just want to tell you a little bit more about what UX design actually is. So just to kind of give you a little bit of an introduction, and then as Adrian has already said, afterwards I can also answer your questions, whether it is about how to break into the industry, depending on your background. We can chat a little bit more about what UX design actually is if you have any questions after my presentation. But basically what I wanted to chat a little bit about is, first of all, I wanted to, as I said, tell you what UX design actually is. I also wanted to tell you about how UX designers work. Your journey with UX Academy, this is also partially covered by Adrian, and also just talk to you a little bit more about what you can do after. So if you have a certificate from UX Academy, or in general, if you learn UX design, if you do a course in UX design, what can you actually do with it? And then, as already said, we will have the Q&A. So what is UX design? First of all, I think before we answer the question, what is UX design, I think we need to answer the question, what is actually UX? So UX stands for user experience. And user experience, to quote Don Norman, it encompasses all aspects of the end user's interaction with the company, its services, and its products. So the term user experience, it was actually coined in the early 90s by the cognitive scientist and engineer Don Norman. So it's him who actually started UX as who coined the term, and partially then also started the discipline with it. So he joined the team at Apple as a user experience architect. That was his official job title. And he was responsible for looking at all aspects of the person's experience, of the customer's experience with the system. So including, for example, graphics, the interface, things like, for example, the manual. So everything when you buy an Apple computer, everything from, for example, going into the store and then talking to the people there, getting some help there, then taking the computer home, putting it into the car. All of these things he actually considered to be part of the whole user experience. So it covers everything from industrial design, graphics, interface, the physical interaction, the manual, everything. That is the way that he coined the term initially. Today, when we talk about user experience, sometimes it's seen as a little bit more narrow. So for example, the definition that I just gave you today, we might also sometimes call that service design. But again, actually user experience, the way it was initially coined, it actually covers all of these different aspects, because all of them, of course, shape how a user, a customer, a person perceives a certain product, whether it's physical or digital. So to maybe put it a little bit simpler, the user experience is basically the outcome of a user interacting with an artifact. That's maybe a little bit of a simpler definition. It's basically the sum total of everything that affects your perception as a user. The UX is really an outcome. So that also means that you can't design UX. This is a misconception that I sometimes hear. Oh, I'm designing UX. no, you can't design the actual user experience, but your design, what you make, whether that is now, for example, a website, we're going to look at some examples later, the website, or for example, even a physical product, all of that shapes the user experience. So it will affect whether the user has a positive or a negative user experience, but you don't necessarily design UX. So as you can also here see in this graphic, maybe it makes it a little bit clearer, as simple as I can put it. So you have a user, customer, person who interacts with a certain artifact, and then the outcome is the user experience. What kind of artifacts? So just to show you some examples, it could be, for example, apps. This is maybe the thing that you most often see online when you just Google UX. You will find, okay, so you find a lot of pretty designs of apps. That is definitely a very big part of it when we talk about UX design. It's also something like software. It's like, for example, in this case, I think it's actually a website. So website is also something, a type of artifact. Then also something, in this case, a remote control plus Netflix itself. Here, another example, a dashboard in a car. This is maybe not something that you would immediately think of if you Google UX design and just find all of those very fancy screens of apps and websites, but it can indeed also just be a dashboard in a car. And also think of, for example, artifacts like in virtual and augmented reality, like, for example, this guy is interacting with. And lastly, another artifact that you might design as a user experience designer would be voice user interfaces. So something like from Amazon Echo. So now to come to the term UX design specifically, UX design is designing based on user needs, context, and principles to achieve a desired experience. And the desired experience that we want, of course, for our users, it's a good experience. The desired experience we want to design for a good user experience. That, of course, if we want to achieve a very good experience for the user, it is, of course, a very vast field when we talk about UX design. In the end, it is a combination of skills in design, business, and tech. As you can see it here, there are really a lot of different disciplines that connect to it. As you can see here, maybe it's a bit small depending on what screen you have. I hope you can read some of them. As I already said, it's a combination of design, business, and tech. But here, for example, you also see things like prototyping as part of it. You can also see business, visual design. It's a very, very vast field. And in the end, of course, you might be thinking, why is business part of it? Well, to quote Thomas J. Watson Jr., the CEO of IBM in 1973, he said, good design is good business. So even before actually the term UX design was coined, people understood if we have good design, that is good business. If something is well designed, so provides a pleasurable UX user experience, in this case, it will also be good for business because people that enjoy the product, they will also buy it. So of course, in the field of UX design, it's this kind of very interesting combination of business, tech, and design, because you also need to think of the business aspect. And you need to think of the tech aspect. So what is kind of technologically feasible in that way? But now maybe a little bit more concretely, just to give you some examples, what is actually UX designer doing? I hope you don't feel too overwhelmed if you see that field. As I said, it's quite broad, but I will drill it down for you. We will talk about some different activities that you do as a UX designer on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. We will also talk about specializations that you have, because of course we have the UX designer, but then in this field, you also have a lot of specializations. So first of all, how the UX designer works, it is sometimes a little bit hard to generalize because, of course, as with many jobs, it just depends also on, first of all, your company, your role, the size of the company, a lot of different factors. But in general, the process that UX designers follow, it's quite similar. So you would go through a process of, first of all, you research, then you ideate, and then you test. I'm simplifying the process here. You will find online a lot of, maybe you've heard already about design thinking. You will find also online a lot of different charts of, how is the UX design process? But I'm really trying to simplify it here. So these would be the basic steps that a UX designer goes through. So research, ideating, so just coming up with lots of different ideas of how you might solve a specific problem, and then testing it. And here it might maybe look a little bit linear, but it's actually an iterative process. So I'm not just coming up with an idea, testing it and implementing it, but I will go back. So you can also imagine here some circles. So I'm ideating, I'm testing, this is working, this is not working, let's do it again. And I'm trying to come up with some new solutions. I'm trying to implement the feedback from users. I will design something else, I will test it again. Maybe I even need to go back to the research stage, and I maybe need to do some more interviews. So it's an iterative process. And this, as I said, it's quite simplified, but in general, this is how UX designers work. So when we talk about typical tasks of a UX designer, I already mentioned testing, I mentioned interviews. So in general, a big task of a UX designer would be research, conducting user research. And that could be in the form of surveys. It could also be in the form of interviews. And of course, as I was talking about testing, so in this case, usability testing. So you take an app and you test whether users actually understand it, whether they can achieve a desired outcome. Then also creating sketches and wireframes, developing prototypes, conducting usability testing and iteration. That's something I already mentioned. Coordinating, so coordinating with different stakeholders, UI designers, developers, and defining interaction models and user task flows. So where should a user click? What screen links to what screen, etc. So here, for example, just to maybe put it into a little bit more of a visual format, here you can see a user interview. Here you can find, this is probably a session where a team of UX designers, maybe also with different stakeholders, are analyzing some results, I would presume. So for example, maybe they have conducted some interviews and now they are doing so-called affinity mapping, where they're just checking all of the results that they have from the interviews and trying to generate some insights from them. Here you can see an example of some simple sketches. So also as UX designers, we normally don't immediately move to the computer and design something that immediately looks fantastic, but usually we just start on paper, or we start maybe on the computer, but we make something very, very simple, so-called wireframes. So very, very simple sketches without any pictures in it, usually without color, just to kind of first not waste immediately a lot of time and money on developing something that maybe in the end is not actually great for users. So this comes back to what I already said. It's an iterative process. So as UX designers, we would kind of sketch something, then we test it, try to always get some feedback before we spend a lot of time of developing something that maybe users don't understand. Then we develop it a little bit more, test it again, and so on. Again, it's iterative. And maybe here I'll come back to the quote in a minute. But here, for example, you can then see a prototype that was developed. In this case, actually just some sketches, and it's being tested. And we will try to get some feedback from the user that's sitting there and just try to see whether the user can actually achieve what we ask him to do. And here, of course, in the end, we also move to the computer, and on the computer, we then try to make some mock-ups, prototypes. So that means we actually try to make an app that looks quite real. It's not developed yet, so we don't write code necessarily, but we just try to make a prototype that looks quite real. So then again, we can get some feedback from users without actually having to ask developers to code it for us. And again, wasting, of course, a lot of money on developing something maybe that is not actually desired by users. Just maybe to come back to this quote here, designers don't come up with ideas. The right solution comes from the users, and we are facilitators of a process. I really like this quote because, I mean, first of all, it just emphasizes that it's not just us being kind of the creative genius. It's actually a misconception that I had myself when I was maybe in high school. Back then I thought, oh, design is something for people who are good at drawing and people, who are artists, who are incredibly creative and just come up with things out of thin air. But that's actually not the case. Of course, sure, there is a big element of creativity, but design, and in this case, particularly user experience design, it's not art. So it's this process that I was talking about where you collaborate, where you get feedback from your users, do research, and really understand their needs and test and so on to actually come up with a solution. It's not just, you're not like the artist that just tries to come up with a beautiful design and then gets implemented. That's not the case. So there is definitely a need for creativity, but it's not necessarily a very artistic profession, maybe in a way. Art is something else. So just to come back, maybe I was already talking a little bit about some of the skills that you need. So as I said, there is a need for creativity, but also as a UX designer, you need storytelling and communication skills. So for example, why do you need storytelling and communication skills? Because you mainly work in a team. Even if maybe you're the only UX designer on the team, you still need to communicate a lot with, for example, developers, with a product manager, and with other stakeholders. And you need to explain them why you designed something in a certain way. You need to communicate UX research results, all of these kind of things. So communication skills are actually very, very important. Of course, maybe even more important if you want to work for an agency than if you work in-house in a company. But no matter what, the communication skills are a very important part, a very important skill for UX designers. Then, of course, user-centered design and research methods. So following this whole process and also knowing, for example, how to make a good survey, how to conduct an interview, these things. Collaboration and teamwork, I already mentioned teamwork, of course. User empathy, so trying to understand the user, having also an interest in, let's say, in general, humans, and being open to what they share and showing empathy. Interaction and behavioral design knowledge, and wireframing and prototyping. So as I already showed you a little bit what wireframing and prototyping is about. So just kind of making different sketches, maybe first on paper, then later on the computer, trying to make a prototype of how the app could look like, and also just understanding of maybe different interaction patterns, we call it. So for example, where you need to click in a certain on the app and how it could link together, how that's maybe different in Android compared to Apple, and so on, these kind of things. So your journey with UX Academy, just to give you a little bit of an idea of how, for example, we implement actually this whole process when we teach the course at UX Academy, we actually go through this process that you follow as a UX designer. So, okay, in the first week, you would have a quick introduction about what is actually UX design. So my colleague Stratus would actually give you a lot more information that I just gave you now. Then we would talk about discovery research. So actually talking about, well, how do you conduct a user interview? What different methods do we have to, at the beginning, kind of understand a problem? Then ideation and facilitating workshops. So ideation would be once you have actually then analyzed the problem, you've done your user research, you have maybe conducted some interviews and so on, and now you know what problem you want to solve. And then you just try to get lots of different ideas, you ideate. And then my colleague Jutta would talk about mapping and wireframing. So then again, just with your ideas, trying to just sketch something out, wireframing and so on. Then in week 5, prototyping. Then in week 6, user testing. So that's the process once you have prototyped solution, even if it's quite simple, actually putting it in front of users and getting some feedback from them. And then in week 7, we also, well, as said, it's an iterative process. So in week 7, we again then give you the chance to iterate on your solution. So after you have received feedback from your users, so actually, again, iterating on it and trying to improve your initial design. And then in the last week, you would present your project and talk a little bit more about UX life. So a little bit more about career, about UX in general. You can ask some questions and so on. And of course, you also present your solution to the client. That's then also something that's happening. So basically, as I already said, it's this kind of process that we follow: planning, researching, prototyping, testing, and iterating. That is the very simple process of user-centered design. Simple, maybe the way it looks like. It's not always simple in practice, but as said, it's a very iterative process, and where you often also go back from one stage to another. And this is pretty much also how we try to, the process that we try to follow at UX Academy. And if we now look at how a week would look like, first of all, a week you would have the class. So you would actually learn some theory. The class is usually, it depends a bit on the class, but it's kind of a combination of theory, lectures in that sense, but it's also some exercises. It depends a bit on the class. I think the first class is a little bit more of a lecture. Then another class is a lot more interactive. It depends a little bit, but it's always a combination. And you will see a lot of different examples. Then what is very interactive is then, again, what we call the fun work, the homework. So where you actually apply your knowledge. So everything that you've learned during class, you can then apply to the homework, to the client project that you're working on. And then we also still have extra guidance, as Adrian already mentioned. So we have mentorship. So that means if you struggle with a project, or if you have any other kind of questions, you can also just, talk to your mentor. We have half an hour of mentorship every week, and you can ask all of these questions and work with the mentor through these problems. So the mentorship, it would be, again, for example, if you struggle with just solving the problem that you're given, if you, for example, didn't understand maybe something, you want to clarify something, that's what you can use the mentorship for. Remove any kind of blockers that you maybe have while working on your project. Follow-up questions on methodologies. And of course, you can also use mentorship to ask questions about UX life, get a career advice, and so on. And maybe just to clarify here as well, in our case, we offer mentorship for the whole group. So not necessarily individual mentoring, but for the whole group, because you also work with the whole group on the client project. So mentorship is given to you as a group. So now just to talk a little bit about what can you do after. So after learning UX design, after, for example, completing the course at UX Academy. So first of all, we can look at the main disciplines that we have in UX design. So we have experience strategy, interaction design, user research, and information architecture. So as I already showed you at the beginning, UX design is quite a vast field. And of course, you can specialize on a certain area. You can just be a UX designer, someone who covers a little bit more of the process. I will talk a little bit more about that. But for example, you can focus on the discipline of user research, one of the disciplines that is a big part of UX design. So user research would be about covering the first part that I was talking about of the whole journey. So actually understanding the problem that you're given, doing interviews, doing surveys, and so on, and then collaborating with the designers on actually designing the solution, but maybe less designing yourself. So that could be, for example, one of the disciplines you can focus on. Maybe a little bit more concretely, some of the roles in UX design that we have would be, we have a product designer, UX designer, user researcher, interaction designer, visual designer. UI designer, of course, you can also be a generalist, or as we sometimes also like to call it, a unicorn. And of course, there's still the service designer as well. So these kind of roles, I mean, first of all, maybe I should also mention here that how a role looks like in the end always depends on the company. I can see that also, well, sometimes you will also see roles like, for example, UX UI designer, UX/UI designer. It really depends on the company. It depends how mature a company is, so how much they know about UX design, if they have had already UX designers for a long time or not, how familiar they are with user research, how big the company is. It depends on a lot of factors. So also depending on that, a UX designer at one company is not the same as a UX designer at another company. But so this is a little bit, I try to generalize here a little bit, but a UX designer would cover normally user research and then also interaction design, but not necessarily work on the visual design. Again, depending on the company, but that would be normally the definition of a UX designer. While then a user researcher, for example, would focus more on the first part, so just doing the user research. Or you could also be an interaction designer who just only focus on interaction design and not necessarily on the research. A UI designer then again would focus on interaction design as well as visual design. A product designer, usually what we call a product designer, would focus on user research up to even the content. But again, these kind of terms might also be used sometimes in a little bit of a different way, but just to give you a little bit of an idea. So there are a lot of different roles also in the big field of UX design. We have also recently seen more and more specializations, like, for example, even roles that are not here, like, for example, a UX writer is a specialization that is becoming more and more important. But yeah, just to give you a little bit of an idea. I would say now is probably a good time to also maybe answer some questions before I talk more about it and go more into detail, maybe really on the things that you're interested in.
So back to the stream. That's a very helpful presentation, Laura. Thank you for taking us through a journey into UX design. Yeah, so what we're going to do now is we're going to quickly, just before we go into the Q&A session, we're going to quickly look at a previous student's presentation, and then we're going to go into the Q&A, just so that you get a flavor of what being a UX designer is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring that video up, and we'll be right back for the Q&A. And yeah, just keep your questions coming in, guys, and we're going to be right with you shortly. Thank you very much. There we go. All right. See you guys in a bit.
December. So if the course week sounded, intimidating, I'll take you through and see how we easily built from not knowing anything to really having a cool project at the end. So I'm Canadian, but living in London. I've been furloughed from my job, and I wanted to use this time to sort of upskill and maybe combine some of the things I was passionate about, like web and design and talking, as you'll hopefully see today, but not too much. And before the course, I had like really little knowledge of the UX space. I just sort of knew I was doing things and there was probably a way to do them better. And I actually came across this webinar and found that UX Academy was like the perfect fit for me. The 8 weeks seemed like manageable. The budget was great. But I think, as they mentioned, the most important and really cool aspect of this course was we worked with a real client on a live app. And we now have a really awesome portfolio item to show for it. I worked with a great team, and actually it was really incredible. On my course, there was so many different people from a million backgrounds. So it's really worth like mentioning that we had contractors, plumbers, designers, interior decorators, and it was a really cool array of people who brought a whole bunch of different skills and insights. So let me introduce to you our app called QJam. I'll play you a little video to show you what it's all about. So as you can see, it's an app that's live and it's exciting and there's so many different aspects to it. But just to summarize it quickly for everyone, it was developed by a guy in the music industry as a way for musicians to connect with fans digitally. And it actually preceded COVID and became even more relevant, as we all know. So think of album launches where artists might want to speak to fans, competitions, Q&As, sort of replacing that record store visit where you meet the artist face to face. And so their big sells on QJam are one-to-one video chats between fans and artists and digital autographs. As well, there was a couple of fan features that we didn't focus on so much in our project, but that included chat rooms and following artists and sharing all different sort of material. So the QJam team came to us with quite a simple scope of work that, when broken down, was a little more difficult. But their goal was to create a seamless experience of participating in and hosting a live stream event on the QJam app. The way they described it was they were in version 1 of the app where everything worked, but there were some problems. So some of the users had doubts about what they should be doing at any given time. Fans would sign up and imitate real artists. Artists couldn't figure out how to sign up. The tutorial screens they had didn't work great. As a result, the QJam team was super involved and had to manually do a lot of things. And one other aspect was it was created music focused, but they wanted to be able to expand into other realms like film and sports. So they came to us with quite a detailed brief that focused on 2 types of user journeys. And the reason I'm sharing that part with you guys today is because though they had to solve things for both fans and artists, it was a lot of work. And our team, with the help of the instructors and the mentor sessions, basically decided how can we most help this app and this development team. And we came to a big decision to narrow down our focus to just one user flow, and that is of the artists and all of the steps they go through before going live. And we felt by doing that, we were going to be able to deliver, a much better result to the client and have our work each week in the sessions and course just be much more manageable and effective. So just to sort of tell you a bit about the different steps we took and how it relates to the course breakdown you just heard about, is we went in with a goal to understand why artists were having trouble setting up accounts and hosting events. But more than that, we wanted to know what they wanted in the app and the things they would need, either in an event or a profile section, and also where they encountered these problems and what was slowing them down. And as you saw, there's a bunch of research methods that you learn in the course about how to perform for UX. And that involved stakeholder interviews, watching events, us testing the app and, getting stuck. We did some competitor research and also this user testing. So I'll show you a bit about how we did all that as a team. Stakeholder interview, we got to speak to the head of development and the app founder and CEO and learn everything that drove them and sort of what excited them, what was causing them problems. We also were able to watch live events that were actually happening throughout the time we were working on the app, because it's a real working app. So we noted what the fans were complaining about. And also you could see on the right-hand side for the One Direction fans, we also got to see Liam Payne and hear his pain points of going through the app. And all that added to other research we did, including a competitor analysis where we looked at who QGEM saw as their competition, which is on the left, but then also looking at other apps like Instagram, Tinder, and Spotify to see how they had artists on their app and how they verified artists to make sure they are who they say they are, and what sort of features musicians might need on a profile. And last, and probably the most important thing you'd imagine, is this user testing, where we had our users go through the app and watched what they were doing, heard what they were saying, and documented and observed everything they did, from things they succeeded at, or maybe they got stuck in places. And you could see, for an example below, this is an actual screen we showed to the client. Was they had the screen, this is the profile section, and in the middle we have the real quotes that real users said to us in the test about, you know, they don't want their full name as an artist to be public. And then we noted some of those behaviors and how that all led to a pattern. And as was spoken about earlier from the instructor, we had this ideation stage where we synthesized user outcomes. And what that means in sort of plainer English is that we wrote down everything all of our test users said, we grouped them together, and we were able to figure out like big themes and big areas that were a struggle for the users across the app. We also created a customer journey map, and these are things you do each week in the course. It's not all by yourself or done behind the scenes. So you'll work on this in and out of class time with the help of instructors and the mentor. And we had pain points and opportunities, and we used all of these different steps and lessons to basically focus on the 4 areas we felt needed the most improvement and we were able to work on. So we focused on these 4 things. It was sign up. People were signing up as all sorts of things. Artists had to verify their accounts, and they didn't know how to. When it came to creating events, it was honestly a disaster. No one could figure out how to create an event. And artists felt that when they went to go live, the camera turned on immediately and they were thrown in the deep end, and that made them like really unhappy. So here's a little look at the different stages of the course, actually, as well as our project and how our team worked throughout the 8 weeks. And we had the research, and once the research was completed, we started sketching out solutions and wireframing. We took those wireframes using the design best practices and all the lessons from from the course and from the instructors, and we were able to translate that into an actual working prototype where you could click through as if you were using the app itself. We then got the opportunity to take this prototype and test users. And so we had new users, not the same ones we had used before, go on and test this app using the tool Figma, which I'm sure Adrian will speak a bit more about. It's an awesome tool we got to use in this course. I'm sort of obsessed with it. And once we had that results from the prototype test, we were able to look at what worked and what didn't work. And we would use that research and those results to update designs and do further testing. So just a little insight before I wrap up, an example of one of our areas of focus, which was event creation. And I know this app's slightly complicated, has a lot of bits, but if you've ever created an event on Facebook or Eventbrite, this is that sort of section where you would go in and title it, set the date. In order to do that, they had on the left-hand side here, tutorial screens. They knew the tutorial screens weren't working, so they would also send the artists and their management emails with instructions and PDF with pictures. And then after all that, the artist still had to go onto this little screen here called Schedule Event, and they were confused. And so most of the time, the QGEM team would actually go and create the event for the artist, which we could all agree is probably a terrible way, a waste of everyone's time, and does not help an app like this scale. So we took these problems and we created brand new screens in our prototype, which I show you guys here. And we basically removed the tutorial screens. We also got rid of that need for QGEM to get involved, sending emails and guiding them through it. And we used design best practices and our research findings to create these really, I'm going to say they're beautiful because our team made them, but these beautiful screens that really helped alleviate some of the issues of the event creation. And so just to sort of wrap up, second week of December, we got to present a full new prototype to the client, and they were very happy one thing that was super awesome was that they knew as an app team that there were certain issues, but our research methods were able to confirm that, and they had real proof that some of the things they thought didn't work actually didn't work, and now they knew why. We were excited because we also got to present new solutions that the team seemed really eager to hopefully include in their new version of the app. So that was really exciting for all of us. And even one of our teammates did a little bit of extra work after the course to help them with the next step, which was the go live section. And we all had a great time. And so I hope that's super helpful to you and that you guys enjoy your journey on this course.
Okay, so this is the time that you've all been waiting for. Oh, a little bit of glitch. Here we go. Here we go. Well, thank you guys for your patience. I hope you guys enjoyed that student project example from one of our top students recently who graduated a few months ago, which is Emily. She actually got hired on the spot, which is a opportunity which is becoming less rare nowadays with UX Academy, and it just shows what is possible once you put in great effort into your projects and you grip on the understanding of UX design. So we're going to go straight to the questions. We're not going to waste too much time. I bet Nora's been itching to answer your questions. So we've got quite a handful of questions. We're going to do our best. All right. So Rory says, can you give an example of a user research method in practice? We are limited in time. We'll see what Nora can do. This is one of her specialties.
So user research method, I already actually mentioned user interviews. That is a very, very common user research method. So you talk to people, you kind of have a scripted, not 100% scripted, but a guided conversation where you try to learn more about the problems that a user is facing in a certain area. Of course, what I also already mentioned were surveys. That's also very, very common. Yeah, there are a lot of different methods, but I would say these two are actually very, very common.
Thank you very much, Nora, for answering that question. Okay, we're going to take another question. Hip Rocker says, I'm a single mother. I would love to join the course, but I don't have the finance. Hip Rocker, you'll be pleased to know that we do have a monthly payment plan available, which is very affordable. You can spread the cost from as little as around £70 a month throughout the space of 12 months if you really have to spread it out that long. That's available if you are in the UK. Other than that, you can take advantage of the webinar discount, which we've offered earlier on in today's session. You will get another opportunity to see that later on in just a moment. Okay, let's go to the other questions because we did get quite a few questions during the stream. Lucia says, I want to know about payment options. Lucia, the payment options I've just explained. You can pay monthly or in 2 installments, or you can pay up front, which you do have a few brave people doing that from time to time. Okay, Zorahabe says, I'm using Adobe. Would it be difficult to move to Figma? What are your thoughts on that, Nora?
It's quite simple. Another very common software, it would be Sketch, but in the end, they're actually all very similar. So if you are used to Adobe XD, I presume that you mean Adobe XD and not Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, and so on. Adobe XD is quite similar to Figma. Actually, in a recent course, we even had a student who was kind of, I prefer Adobe XD. It's very similar to Figma, but I prefer it. And there are actually plugins with which you can easily import things that you design in Adobe XD. You can import it to Figma. So no worries.
Awesome. Perfect. I'm going to go straight into another question now. Is this course perfect for others around the world as well? Yeah, it is. It is geographically agnostic. Doesn't matter what country you are, what city, what town. We've had people as close as London, where I am right now in UK, and people as far as wide as India take the course, which is pretty impressive. Okay, let's go into some other questions.
I mean, if you can manage the time difference, of course. But for example, in the recent course, we even had someone from the Philippines who stayed up quite late, but she managed. She did a great job. But of course, time difference is something you might need to consider, and depending on when you work.
Yes, yeah. Okay, let's move on. So Zishan says, so UX could be understood as an umbrella term.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely is. It definitely has a number of overlaps there. Zohab, do good design mean good UI design? Not that straightforward, is it?
Um, mm, it's part of it. I mean, good UI design, it's one part of it. But of course, you also need to think about interaction design. It contains a lot of different aspects. So in the end, I mean, to just think about maybe a service or a product that you had a very good experience with. Was that only just the visual aspects? No, it was a lot of other aspects that came into that having that fantastic experience as well. So it's not just UI.
Excellent. It's not just UI. Thank you. Anke asks, Nora, is it necessary to know HTML or CSS for a UX designer?
It's not necessary. It's helpful. So first of all, it depends, of course, a little bit on where you work. Depending on the company, they might want you to know a little bit more HTML or less. I know there are some UX design roles where they want you to know HTML because they, just maybe depending on the company, if it's a smaller company, they want you to maybe also then do some prototypes then with HTML, CSS. But in general, no, you don't need to know it. I think it's recommendable because it helps you to talk to developers a little bit more easily. Like if you talk about margins, they just know what you're talking about. But don't worry about it so much at the beginning. I mean, first you need to learn the UX design process, and then you can add a little bit of HTML and CSS on top of that. And it's more of a passive understanding and not so much an active understanding.
Totally. Couldn't agree with you more with that one. Okay, let's keep it moving. Soph says, what materials would you recommend throughout the course and beyond?
Or we're going to cover that in the course.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be all covered in the course. That's probably the quick and easy answer to that one. We're going to move on.
There are a lot of resources online. And throughout the course, we're going to recommend you a lot of videos. Actually, I mean, I just finished teaching the beginner's UX design course, and I also actually sent some personalized resources. So, for example, we had some graphic designers transitioning to UX design. So I tried to send them some more specialized resources for graphic designers. Then we had some people that were more interested in user research. So in those cases, I always try to then also provide some personalized recommendations, what is maybe more interesting to those people.
Absolutely. Thank you for elaborating on that point, Nora. Hammer asks, career change from senior QA/testing to UX designer is possible. What is the probability of getting into a job?
So two questions at the same time. So first one, from senior QA testing, definitely. I think if you already work in tech, it's of course easier to switch to UX design. And then the second question, it depends where you're located. I know that, for example, the US is definitely more competitive. The job market there is a lot more competitive. I heard similar things about, for example, India. I also know that in Europe, it depends a little bit. I have the impression that the UK might be a little bit more competitive when it comes to getting into UX than, let's take, I don't know, Germany. So it's hard to kind of generalize on that. Depends on your region. And that's maybe something you can rather answer by just trying to get into contact with people in your area. In general, networking is what in the end usually gets you the job.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. All right, let's keep moving. We've got a couple more questions or so here. And then I'm going to start to bring this to a close. Okay, so we have another question here from Megan, and she asks, would you say there's a high demand in the UK for UX designers? That's a good question.
Definitely, but maybe actually Adrian can answer the question even better because he's in the UK, I'm not.
Yeah, I would say that demand has definitely increased during the pandemic. I definitely did see the demand rise in 2020. Reason being more people being online, therefore more companies, focusing on online platforms and going digital. And as a result, with more focus online, there is a need for more UX designers. It's literally growing with the demand. And that's pretty much what it is. But it's a fairly competitive market. But if you do the work, you can get into a job. It's not impossible. We definitely have seen our UX Academy. VJ says, great. Can you please tell me more about empathy importance in UX? I think that's probably going to be covered in the course.
Yeah, maybe you can also elaborate on what you mean exactly, but
Yeah.
Yeah, it is important. It is important, but maybe either specify your question a little bit, and otherwise we'll cover it in the course.
Okay. Okay, I have seen a few questions, but we do not have a lot of time. Rory says, can you go over what's covered in UX research part of the course? Rory, what I recommend is if you request a free course brochure, just go into the YouTube description box. You will see a link to be able to request that, or go to the UX Academy website and click on Beginner UX Design course and request the course brochure, or go in that page. You should be able to get a better idea. For the sake of time, if you do one of those two options, that would be your best bet there. Okay, let's take a couple more questions, and then I will start to bring this to a close. There's a lot of questions. Unfortunately, we won't be able to answer all. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can see some questions that maybe we should definitely still cover.
Yeah,
like one is about okay. Yeah, I can. Yeah.
All right. You want to choose? Is there a copy you want to go for? Because there's quite a few.
Yeah, there are a lot of. So one is very easy to answer. There's one about I have been a freelance UX designer. Can I enroll in the intermediate UX design course? Yes, you can. Just send us a message. I'm not 100% sure when we're going to open the next intermediate UX design course. Adrian can probably answer that better. But yeah, that's definitely possible. You actually need some previous experience for that.
Yeah, you can get in touch with me. That's my email address there if you want. Next intermediate course is likely going to be next month at the end of July. But yeah, it is a fast-paced industry. The dates may change, but at the moment you got the next intermediate course in July. But we do stress test you to make sure that you are qualified for that course, because you need to be an existing UX designer for that course. Otherwise, you may struggle. All right. Let's take one more question. Yeah.
So I can see I can actually see kind of a conversation here going on between Rachel and then also just about the question. How easy is it to transition to UX design? And there are a lot of senior roles available, so I kind of want to address that.
Sure.
On the one hand, you're definitely right. It is definitely an issue that there are a lot of senior roles and everyone wants people with 2-3 years of experience. That's true. However, that's one of the reasons why I think UX Academy will definitely help you is that we actually offer a client project. So first of all, what will get you the job, even though you have a lot of those kind of senior positions, it's on the one hand, making use of the experience that you have. And whether you're right now a QA analyst or whatever, there's so many jobs that connect to UX, and you can use that previous experience and connect it to UX. And that, for example, will already help you. Then, of course, networking as much as possible. And then in the end, it's also the portfolio that will get you a job, even if you have less than 2-3 years of experience. And for the portfolio, I would always recommend that you actually work with real clients and not on just some kind of made up project. That can be kind of helpful, of course, for you to practice, but it's not great for a portfolio. So for example, if you have these things, you can even get into positions that are maybe 2 to 3 years. Of course, it depends on a lot of different factors. It depends on the area where you live. I did also want to deny that it's not competitive, but if you have client projects and you can show that you can actually do the process, then you can also get into maybe not a senior role, but into a media role. And also think about it, a lot of the roles are not actually advertised. A lot of the vacancies are not online. So that's, again, through networking, you can actually also get a lot of roles. And a lot of companies, of course, also recognize that they need to hire also some entry-level designers, if they want to have more senior designers. But it often happens also through networking and even through our client projects, for example.
Yeah. Nora's given you some very good gems into breaking into the industry. Very, very useful. I'm conscious of time. I know we've gone over time just a little bit. I appreciate you may have to jump off, Nora, unless there was another question that you wanted to take. There was one interesting question here. How do I know, or can you advise how to best to research an assignment or tasks? Example, research on creating up design for a website, i.e. making a booking. Oh, that's...
I think That's maybe a little bit too specific.
Too specific. Yeah, won't be able to cover that entire question. Is something that we're going to cover in the course, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also a question about inclusive, how inclusive, accessible is the course for those with disabilities, and why. Maybe this is also something, Rebecca, just send us maybe an email and we can address your question a little bit more specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, guys, feel free to drop me an email or get in touch with UX Academy if you have any questions. That's my email address on the screen. You can pause the YouTube video or LinkedIn or Facebook and take a screenshot or whatever. All right, guys. That's the Q&A session for now. I appreciate Nora has to jump off. So Nora, thank you for joining us tonight. Grateful to have you on board. And yeah, thank you very much, Nora.
You're welcome. I hope, not sure, unfortunately I couldn't answer all questions, but just reach out to us and I tried to cover as many questions as possible. And I hope at least UX design as a whole just got a little bit clearer and you understood a little bit better what it's about.
That's correct. That's correct. All right. So Nora's going to jump off, guys. I'm going to quickly answer any questions relating to the course quickly, and then I'm gonna head over to the next section, which is obviously that special offer and the bonus that you've all wanted. So thank you very much, Nora. All right. Okay. We'll see you later. All right. So let's go through the questions. Okay. Let's have a look. Usually we don't get this many questions about the course, so we're quickly going to go through them. Let's have a look. Zishan says, can you just clarify if the deposit is in addition to the course fee, or is it deducted from the course fee, and is the 12% discount for the deposit or for the whole fee? Okay. Now the deposit, how the discount works is you put in workshop 12, it will take some money off the deposit, but then what will happen is that the rest of the discount will be applied when you're paying off the course. So thank you very much, Zishan. That's a lot of thank you, Nora. So thank you again, Nora, if you're watching somewhere. Thank you very much again for joining us. They really appreciated your fabulous excellence on here. Let's go through quickly and see if there's any more questions related to the course before we start to get to that special offer and the bonuses that we're giving away. Looks like we have answered them all here. Okay, once again, guys, I mean, if you do have any more questions, just feel free to drop me an email and we'll take it from there. I think that's all the questions, so we're just going to move on. So, all right, guys, let's move on. So, once again, guys, special offer. If you want to enroll into the course, places are selling out. We do have a few more places left for the course. So it's first come, first served. Normal price for the course is $10.50. But if you use the code workshop12, you will be able to bag yourself a 12% discount off the course, which will give you some nice little savings. Just use the link in the YouTube description box or in a YouTube live chat if you're watching on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook. There is a link in there in the description as well, or just visit the link on the screen, myuxacademy.com/enroll, or just visit our website and just get in touch with us. We'll be happy to help. Workshop 12 is the discount code. Any issues, please do let us know. Now, just to let you guys know, tonight only, if you do sign up tonight, only tonight, we can't redeem this later on. Now, the Workshop 12 coupon code is valid until Friday. So you have up to Friday to be able to take advantage of this discount. Otherwise, it will then disappear. For those of you who take advantage and reserve your place tonight for the course, we do have 3 special bonuses. So the first fast action bonus, if you're able to reserve your deposit before midnight tonight, is 10 free UX books worth £160 in total value. Some of the examples are on the screen, not all of them, but you do have 10 books worth £160 in value. These are digital books, which will be shared with you in the cloud storage folder. All right, so that's bonus 1. Bonus 2 is our free 23-page UX UI guide on breaking into the UX industry. I would say it's probably about £20 value. yeah, that's also available to you tonight if you reserve your place in the course. Okay, this is a lot of value in that guide. That guide alone, if you follow that guide alone, it can definitely take you far. Third action bonus, guys, we're giving away 12 months quick test premium subscription worth £85. This is a great way for you to do A/B testing on your UX design products, on your product design products, to really see which design that your users prefer before launching a product, or maybe when iterating a product that you're doing some UX designing for, some product designing for. These are really good offers. So there you have it, guys. Those are the 3 bonuses we're giving away. First bonus is free 10 UX books. Second one is a free 23-page guide. And the third bonus is a free subscription to Quick Test Premium for UX designers and product designers and UI designers. All right. Now, just to finish things up, so more reasons to look at UX Academy. Now you have 8 weeks live lectures. All right. 100 plus students have graduated from us, flexible lessons, students getting jobs, professional portfolio, work placement opportunities, career and tutor support, UX Academy alumni, mentorship. 8 weeks live lectures. You can see this is what it looks like in terms of the overview of the course over the 8 weeks. These are some of the students that have graduated. Flexible lessons, once a week. This is what the makeup of the entire course looks like, week on week, week out. You get the knowledge, you get the training, you get the guidance. All right, with the classes, the fun work, the mentorship. All right, beautiful, beautiful. And we do have students that get in jobs. This is a video of me interviewing our grad Zarina, who got a job at our UX design company. Sorry, as a UX designer at a fintech company recently, and that's like an hour-long conversation. So that's available now to watch. If you guys want the link, just let me know. Professional portfolio. You saw Emily discuss her portfolio, and these are some of the companies you may get to work with, like Snapfix, Nutrigenics, and you have Emoji Connect, which is like a social media platform. Career and tutor support as well. So not only during week 7 and week 8 would you get career and tutor support, you'll also get it during the week as well. And you'll be part of our exclusive UX Academy alumni. You get access to events, special offers, and so much more. Mentorship. This is what mentorship looks like. So weekly meetings with a mentor to be able to address any issues you may have with your portfolio, and to ask follow-up questions and to explore UX life. This takes place only in groups on a 30-minute basis each week over the course of the 8 weeks. So this is something you definitely want to take advantage of if you do come on to the course. All right. Okay, so yep. So let's move on to the final slide. Okay, let's move on to the final slide. So this is the free giveaway, guys. So for those of you who have stayed to the very, very end, thank you very, very, very much. We don't take your time for granted. If we do have a free giveaway for you, a 6-page guide on how to break into the UX design industry. If you just visit the link on the screen right there, so bit.ly/UX Academy Guide 6. You'll be able to get yourself instantly a 6-page guide and break into the UX industry. So please do head over there and get your free gift for staying to the very end. We do appreciate your time. So as a result, we want to give something to you back. All right, guys, I think I've overstayed my welcome, and I'm sure you guys want to go out and enjoy the sunshine wherever you are, or maybe go to bed if it's really late wherever you are right now, or maybe to start your day if it's very early where you are right now. We do appreciate you sharing your time with us. Okay, Zoheb says, can you share the link in the chat? Yes, we can. Let me just pop in the chat for you, Zoheb. Here we go. That's your free link. Should be it. Just give me a second. UX Academy Guide 6. It's a little bit of a wordy one. Let's just test it quickly, make sure it works fine. Yep, that works perfectly. I'm going to post that in now. And there you go. That's your link. So here, thank you for sticking around. And thank you to all of you who have stuck around to the very end. We don't take that lightly. And thank you to all of you once again. That's the special offer if you want to take advantage of it. Otherwise, we will see you at another UX Academy event. All of the links are in the YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn description box as well, and on live chat as well. Thank you very much for your time. I've been Adrian Daniels from UX Academy, and hope to see some of you guys on the course. Take care, guys. Thank you very much. Okay.